Hello, friends. Let's talk about another brain behavior: increasing incidence of hysterical outbursts. I'll tell you about an event that happened. One time, I got a call from a lady saying that she wanted her husband to join my class. She said he was 30 years old, an executive in his dad's company, and he really needed a long therapy session, which she thought my study course would do good for him. His angry bouts were uncontrolled, and she was helpless to bring any change in his life or their relationship. So, to cut a long story short, he stayed in my class for the full term, 3 whole months. And I jokingly ended up calling him Crash and Smash. It became a joke in my class. Over the course of the next few years, his personality and behavior changed dramatically. Others began to see him as a mentor, and he grew into heading his father's business as well. This young man, who we can call Arun, had a rather explosive childhood. He had watched his father control a large family through his hysterical outbursts, throwing things, breaking furniture, getting abusive. In fact, Arun had grown up dodging the boxes and trays that were thrown at him. So it's no surprise that he had learned to suppress the anger that he felt towards his father. But he'd also learned that it works. Emotional outbursts appear as a rapid shift from a state of calm to one of uncontrollable, intense emotion. And you might suddenly become enraged and start yelling or burst into tears or something like that. The fact is that anger raises your blood pressure and releases stress hormones such as cortisol, which doesn't allow you to think clearly. And it's like road rage. You could severely hurt others or even yourself. I'm reminded of another incident that occurred during a session that I was having. At that time, I was working with people of many nationalities, some of who did not speak English, and they had to work through an interpreter. So a little man came in. He was from Hungary, and the interpreter started sharing his story and his issue, and all was calm till then. And listening to his story, I gave him some feedback. I said, So, is this what makes you really angry? I had barely uttered this when he burst out, leapt up, eyes blazing, almost frothing at the mouth, and he lunged at me. It was a scary scene for a few moments until the interpreter thankfully calmed him down, took hold of him, and changed the meaning of what I had said. So it was a little more palatable to him. I had obviously touched a very raw nerve to trigger such a volcanic outburst. It was quite an amazing experience for me. Why do some people have such a short fuse that lends and leads to such hysterical anger? Well, the reasons are many. It could be genetic factors, like in the case of Arun, what he had inherited and what he had watched, or biological factors culminating from stress, where the level of serotonin is lower than normal, or environmental factors like experiencing, verbal and physical abuse in childhood, even witnessing, even when you watch people being abused while you're growing up, it could be very traumatic. All these traumatic events play a role in causing these outbursts. So, if you are prone to this kind of anger, a good thing to begin with is to become proactive about things that might contribute to this. Begin to identify internal and external incidents that may push your buttons. Identify and set boundaries, like, physically and emotionally, that will reduce the stress. Then I think that speaking up when something makes you uncomfortable is necessary, rather than staying in that situation with the discomfort and taking it until it goes to that bursting point. Because a lot of times people don't know that we are uncomfortable. So it's important to state your need. Grounding and relaxation techniques are a must. Doing positive affirmations, which I give in my sessions all the time, or a mantra and meditation to improve sleep, for instance, is very important. A body scanning technique of relaxation where each muscle, starting from your toes right up to the top of your head, relax each muscle as you go up. I find that regular walking helps a great deal too. So these are simple ways, and yet they are very, very effective ways to deal with periodic anger outbursts. So help yourself. They're not difficult to do, but they're important, so do them. And remember, stress is like a storm that passes, like everything else.
That was this week's episode for the Cellular Alchemist podcast with spiritual psychologist Ritu Malhotra. Don't forget to follow the podcast on your listening app so that when the new episode drops, you do not miss out on the chance to change your life by changing your beliefs.